You know, what's coming across to me, at least from all of your stories as well as your introductions, is that facilitation can take place at so many levels and in so many different situations. Our teams, our families, as Prakash said, entire organizations, sometimes entire countries also need facilitation to work, right? And what I'm wondering is, these are all clearly important levels, but which is your favorite level for each of you to actually work at? And what does good facilitation look like at each of these levels? Any volunteer to start us off on this one?
I'll start. That's really simple for me, because for me, I think I really love the very close, intimate level, i.e. just with a group of people. When I say a group, it's just about 6 to 7 people, and they can really have very good conversation. So that's where I feel most energetic. As opposed to when you're being lead facilitator for a workshop with 20 or even 100 people. In that sense, you are also facilitating a bigger group, but for me, most of my energy comes from the smaller group, where you can really hear the stories of the individuals.
So what does good facilitation look like there? Is it when the stories come alive?
Yep, exactly. It is about, I think, one way to look at it is you just feel that the mood of the room just changes. People get more relaxed. People start to laugh a little bit more. So that's, I think, it's in terms of the atmosphere. But in terms of actual stories, you're right. So in that sense, people start to share more uncomfortable stories, things that you don't normally hear in a public setting. Even talking to strangers, right? You suddenly get to hear about their life stories in terms of times where they are sad or they lost someone or something they're uncomfortable with. That's where you feel that, oh, that's really a good facilitator work.
Okay. Who wants to add to that?
Well, I guess to show that we're all a little bit diverse, for me, I love all the levels of the system, but the one that gets me most excited is when there's a large group of people with a common purpose. So I love like a few hundred people together who all are caring about, say, empowering seniors, empowering elders, or how do we focus on early childhood education for the more vulnerable, financially vulnerable families, those kind of things. And when you get a couple hundred people all who care about the same thing, that's what I find the most of all of that. I mean, all the different levels, right?
Yeah. Right. Prakash, you want to go next because you've worked at some of those levels, right? With 100 group sessions.
I was just about to say, right, probably somewhere in between or actually both. Actually, I like all levels of the process, right? So I like designing the process. I like, finding out what the group or where the group wants to go, or even that the group doesn't know where it wants to go, and therefore, I find the energy that I get at different levels is different. But so I just want to share a story, if I may, what Louis was saying about small group facilitation. So I do a lot of public engagement sessions ever since our Singapore conversation started. I love those things, and because I think, particularly in Singapore, but I think it's probably prevalent around the world, and Doug will probably be able to share more. But the idea of people coming together with a common purpose, not knowing exactly where the final end product is going to be, but they all say, I want all of our lives to be better. And what that means is different for different people. But having that coming together, it's so brilliant. Mm-hmm. So the idea of Singaporeans coming together and talking about whether it's big issues, whether it's something specific like MediShield Life, or and I've done a review of MediShield Life. Y'all can thank me for the higher premiums that y'all are getting. But the idea of that, right, is for me that's such a power, and I think that's what's lacking perhaps on the social media front when people are they're keyboard warriors,
right? Quite anonymous, right?
Yeah, they're anonymous, and they don't see the other person, right? So they make assumptions based on the words that they see on the screen, and so then it will assign labels. But when you sit in a room, literally like this, facing each other, you start to realize that the words that are coming out are from a human being, and therefore that human being has got desires, has got anger, has got emotion, has got happiness, has got children, has got a whole world around them. And now you're no longer just looking at the words in isolation, or listening to the words in isolation, but now you're looking at the whole. And that for me is brilliant facilitation experience that I do, and public engagement especially,
right?
Because these are people who may not up to then have gotten a voice. So even more so, like giving them the power to be able to share that voice to the people who will influence their lives very much, like the public servants and the policies.
Yeah, right. So we've heard about small groups, big groups, lots in between. Sheila, do you want to go next?
Sure. I'm really somewhere in between. I was actually just thinking of something quite specific. I love facilitating a group of 30 to 40 people where ideally they come from different parts of the same but huge organization. So I love it when people come together. They don't know each other, but they're aware that they are all working towards some sort of common mission, common outcome that their organization is working towards. And they learn about the different ways in which all of them do that. And the other thing that I wanted to bring up was something that I'm really enjoying, surprisingly, I think, is the experience that 2020 has given us in terms of online facilitation. When it first happened, I was like, oh no, this is going to suck so bad.
Right.
How do you facilitate conversation online? How do you make people feel like it's a human environment and it's safe and they can say what they want? I have found my favorite platform now is hybrid programs, where you have some days in person and some days online. Because I feel like this caters to the largest variety of people, I find that the introverts in the room do really well when it's online and they can feel safe typing their comment without having to verbalize it. The extroverts still get some FaceTime and the ability to connect in person. And so far, I just find that it brings out the best in both worlds. And you get glimpses into each other's lives, right? So I've seen pet cats, dogs, parakeets, kids, parents.
Yeah, probably heard them as well.
Yeah,
online.
people's bedrooms. You get a glimpse into each other's lives that, like Prakash was talking about, it creates that sense of that person is a whole person. Not just the person in the shirt and pants and business suit that comes to the program. That person is also the person, sipping his favorite cup of coffee on his couch, wearing a t-shirt. And it creates a sense of human connection that I did not think the online platform could do. So I was really impressed by that. And I'm quite happy we've had that experience. And I think it will change facilitation going forward.
If I can just follow up on one quick thing. We've heard about facilitation for stories to emerge, facilitation for achieving of common purpose. You've talked about facilitation for learning. How is that different or similar to some of the other stuff that we've talked about?
Well, in the case that I was thinking about, I think that the learning is what facilitates that. Sorry, pun not intended. The learning from each other is what cements that desire to go back and continue pursuing that common purpose.
Okay.
So I find that in programs where people don't know each other, but they know that you're all from the same organization or the same sector, right? You all want to work towards some sort of large common goal. Very often before coming on the program, if you are from one part of an organization, you might think everyone else in the organization or other parts of the organization are, always getting in your way, not really helpful, like, pursuing their own agenda. You come for these programs, and when you meet each other across those silos, that's where you realize, oh, we are all working together towards a common purpose, and we all want to get there just in different ways, and we can help each other, and that would be so much more powerful than if we worked against each other. And then I find that when they leave and they go back to their workplaces, I hope at least, that learning is what kind of reinvigorates that desire to achieve that common aim.
Right. So learning leading to common purpose, right? Dawn, you've worked at many of these levels, right? The team, the learning, the organization, the whole nation. What's your favorite?
Yeah, so I was reflecting on the question, and I actually enjoy all of them. You're right, I've done the huge national type to really small intimate groups of 3 to 5 people, and I enjoy them all, but I realize why. I think I enjoy it most when I am not directly vested in the outcome. So I can be a neutral facilitator, I can hold the space. The conversations I found the most difficult to facilitate are the ones where I am vested. So I'm thinking here particularly about families. So in my own family, it's a job hazard, but I actually try to facilitate conversations in the family, someone speaking enough, bring the person's voice into the conversation. Yeah. But it's really hard when I'm, their mom or their wife.
Really? Why?
Yeah, so I realized that the neutrality of the facilitator, we always say that the facilitator neutrality is a really important value that you bring to the group. And when you're vested, it always makes things a little bit tricky, right? Yeah.